The brochure for Sunset Haven Assisted Living was crisp and smelled faintly of lavender. My granddaughter, Chloe, held it out to me with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. It was the kind of smile you give a child you're trying to coax into eating vegetables. "Look, Nana, isn't it beautiful? They have gardening clubs, bingo, all your meals prepared. You'd love it. The house is just too much for you now." I didn't look at the brochure. I looked past her shoulder, into my own sun-drenched living room, where her husband, Trevor, was running his finger along the edge of my great-grandmother's walnut china cabinet. His touch wasn't admiring, it was appraising. I saw the calculation in his eyes, the same look he'd had when he'd talked Chloe into that luxury SUV they couldn't afford. "It's a lot of space for just one person," Trevor added, finally turning from the cabinet. His voice was a practiced blend of concern and reason. "And those stairs, Eleanor, they're a liability. We worry." We. The word hung in the air, a tiny, benevolent hammer. For 2 years, since my Arthur passed, they'd been orbiting closer, helping with groceries, checking the gutters, staying for increasingly long dinners where Trevor talked about the market and Chloe fretted over my isolation. The guest room had subtly transformed into Trevor's study. My garage now housed his golf clubs. The shift was slow, tectonic, and I had pretended not to feel the plates moving beneath my feet. I'd baked them pies and listened to their plans, playing the part of the gentle, fading matriarch. It was easier that way. The grief had been a heavy woolen cloak. Letting them make decisions was like letting someone else carry the groceries. But watching Trevor covet my cabinet, the one Arthur had lovingly polished every Sunday, the wool slipped, and a cold, crystalline calm settled over me. It was the same feeling I got when a tricky recipe finally clarified. The grief and the loneliness were pushed aside, replaced by a focused, surgical precision. They saw a feeble old woman and a piece of prime real estate. They did not see the architect of a 40-year contract. The move to Sunset Haven was a quiet, pathetic affair. Chloe packed my clothes with efficient pity. Trevor supervised the movers, directing them to leave the heavy, old furniture for the estate sale he was already planning. I took my clothes, my books, a few photos, and my recipe box. Chloe patted it. "We'll keep the traditions alive, Nana," she said, her tone implying the traditions were as deceased as Arthur. My apartment at Sunset Haven was pleasant, beige, and smelled of disinfectant. I smiled at the staff, joined the gardening club, and played a very convincing game of confused, sweet old Eleanor. At night, with the door locked, I worked. The first call was to Martin Feldspar. He'd been the junior associate at the firm that drafted the original agreement. He was now the senior partner. His voice when I got through to him was warm with genuine surprise. "Eleanor Worth, by God, I haven't heard that name in years. How is Arthur?" "Gone, Martin. 2 years now." A beat of respectful silence. "I'm so sorry. He was a good man. And you were the fiercest negotiator I'd ever met for a homemaker."
"I need to be fierce again, Martin." I laid it out for him. The pressure, the coerced move, the covetous son-in-law, the plan to seize the house. I heard his pen tapping on his desk, a fast, staccato rhythm. "That's morally reprehensible, Eleanor, but legally, unless they've forged your signature or you've signed something under duress, it's a family dispute, ugly but not criminal." "I understand," I said, my voice steady. "I'm not calling about the house, not directly. I'm calling about the Golden Hearth Agreement. The Sunshine Lemon? It's still active. Payments are steady. What about it?" "What," I asked slowly, "would constitute a material breach of that agreement on Golden Hearth's part?" The tapping stopped. "Why do you ask?" "Indulge an old woman's curiosity, Martin, from a legal standpoint." He sighed.
Well, the standard things: failure to pay, disclosure of the protected trade secrets, attempting to reverse engineer the formula outside the licensed terms. Why? A plan, delicate and devastating as a soufflé, was rising in my mind. Martin, I'd like you to send a routine audit inquiry to Golden Hearth, a clause check as per Section 7B of our agreement. Request documentation of annual sales figures for the last 5 years for the Heritage Classics line, specifically the lemon cake, and ask for a certification that no internal analysis or attempted replication of the protected process has been undertaken by their R&D department in the last decade. Eleanor, that's unusually aggressive. They'll push back. It could sour relations. Let it sour, I said, a note of the old steel in my voice. And, Martin, send a copy of the inquiry and any response to my attention here at Sunset Haven and to my home address. Your home? But you said, just do it, please. The wheels were in motion. I spent my days being pleasantly daughtery, watering the community petunias. I baked simple cookies for the Sunset Haven social, using a recipe from the top of the box. They were a hit. You're a treasure, Eleanor, the activities director chirped. Meanwhile, at my former home, the transformation was swift. Chloe sent me photos, the old floral wallpaper stripped, replaced by trendy gray. My Persian rug was gone, swapped for a geometric jute thing. Arthur's reading chair was on a Facebook Marketplace listing I stumbled upon. Each image was a tiny cut, but I felt them through a layer of numbness. The real feeling was reserved for the certified envelope that arrived from Martin's office a week later. It contained a copy of the audit inquiry, printed on intimidating legal letterhead, and clipped to it was a sticky note from Martin in his messy scrawl. They're not happy. Watch your mail. 2 days later, the storm hit. I was playing bridge with Mabel, Doris, and Fred when the head nurse, Linda, scurried over, her face pale. Eleanor, there are people here to see you, in the executive office. I placed my cards down. Oh dear, is everything all right? I don't know. They look official. I made my way slowly down the hall. Through the glass wall of the office, I saw the manager, Mr. Henderson, looking deeply uncomfortable. Facing him were 2 men and a woman. They wore expensive, severe clothing. One of the men held a leather-bound folder. I entered. You wanted to see me? The woman turned. She was in her 50s, with a sharp blonde bob and eyes that missed nothing. Mrs. Eleanor Worth? I'm Victoria Chase, General Counsel for Golden Hearth Bakeries. These are my colleagues. Golden Hearth? Is this about my lemon cake? I haven't written any complaint letters. This is not about a complaint, Mrs. Worth. It's about a highly irregular and hostile legal inquiry from your counsel, implying bad faith on the part of my company. An inquiry which, we note, was also sent to a residential address that is not your primary domicile. I blinked, looking confused. My home? But I live here now. My family handles my mail at the house. Your family? Your granddaughter Chloe and her husband Trevor Alden? I nodded, adding a little shake. Yes, such dears. They're managing things for me. Mrs. Worth, the man with the folder spoke. He had a softer voice meant to be disarming. We received the audit request. Standard practice would be to engage with your counsel. However, the dual mailing raised flags. We conducted a routine background check. We discovered that Mr. Trevor Alden was employed until very recently at Crisp Confect, a subsidiary that is a direct competitor in the snack cake sector. I let my jaw drop slack. Trevor? In baking? He's in marketing, I thought. He was, said Victoria Chase coldly, at Crisp Confect's marketing division. He was terminated 3 months ago for underperformance. Our concern, Mrs. Worth, is that this audit request, particularly the question about internal R&D analysis, may not be originating from you. It might be a fishing expedition motivated by your grandson-in-law's connections to a competitor, potentially using your intellectual property as a vector for corporate espionage. The room was so quiet I could hear the humming of the fluorescent lights. Mr. Henderson looked like he wanted to vanish into his ergonomic chair. I let the silence stretch. Then I began to cry. Not loud sobs, but quiet, devastating tears that welled up and rolled down my wrinkled cheeks. I looked every one of my 82 years. Oh my, I stammered, fumbling for a handkerchief. Corporate espionage? Trevor? No, he wouldn't. He's family. They just wanted to help with my house. They said it was too much. I let the sentence fragment, a picture of vulnerable confusion. Victoria Chase's expression didn't soften, but it shifted, the predator scenting a different, more complicated prey. Your house, she repeated. I nodded, wiping my eyes. They were so worried. I'm here now. They're fixing it up. Trevor said he found some of my old papers in the study. It was a masterstroke dropped like a stray, innocent seed. I saw the lawyers' minds connect the dots. The coerced move, the son-in-law with ties to a competitor, the sudden legal probe into a tightly held trade secret, the mention of old papers in the house they now controlled.
Mrs. Worth, Victoria said, her tone now lethally calm. Do you have a copy of the licensing agreement? The original? I sniffled. In my recipe box. The one I brought here. It's in my apartment. May we see it? Under the watchful eyes of a horrified Mr. Henderson, we paraded to my beige apartment. I fetched the oak box, my hands shaking convincingly. I opened the false bottom and handed them the documents. Victoria Chase scanned them, her eyes narrowing at the specific clauses on confidentiality and breach. She looked from the papers to my tear-stained face, to the bland surroundings of Sunset Haven. Who currently manages the royalty payments? She asked. The fiduciary, I said. Mr. Brannigan. He just sends the statements. I don't bother him. I was painting a portrait of total, helpless relinquishment. Victoria closed the folder. Mrs. Worth, we believe your intellectual property, our jointly held trade secret, may be under threat of misappropriation. This is a serious matter for Golden Hearth. We have a duty to protect our assets. She looked at her colleagues and gave a tiny, almost imperceptible nod. We will be initiating our own legal actions to secure the situation, immediately. You will be kept informed. They left with a copy of my agreement. I sat on my bed, the recipe box beside me, the tears dry on my face. Outside, the petunias nodded in the breeze. The following week was a silent vacuum at Sunset Haven. No calls from Chloe, no visits. Then on a Tuesday morning, my phone rang. It was Chloe. Her voice was raw, shredded with panic. Nana? Nana, what have you done? Chloe, dear, is everything all right? You sound upset. Upset? Upset, Nana? There are federal agents at our door and process servers. We're being sued. Golden Hearth Bakeries is suing us for corporate espionage and attempted theft of intellectual property. They're freezing our accounts. They're saying Trevor tried to steal your lemon cake recipe. I waited a beat, letting her hysteria echo down the line. My recipe? But it's just in my box, dear. You've seen it. Did Trevor want to try baking it?
No, Nana, listen to me. They're saying he used his position at Crisp Confect to try and get their scientists to analyze the sunshine lemon to break the license. They're saying he pressured you to move out to get access to the house and your papers. They have documents, Nana, emails. Ah, so Trevor had been stupid and ambitious. The audit inquiry had been the torch thrown into the dry tinder of his own greed. Golden Hearth's lawyers had dug, and they'd found something. Perhaps just bravado in an email to an old colleague, "My wife's grandma has the holy grail of cake recipes, we're getting control of it." It would have been enough. "I don't understand these things, Chloe," I said, my voice soft and bewildered. "Lawyers, patents, it's all so confusing. Your grandfather handled it." "Where are the papers, Nana?" she demanded, her fear turning to anger. "The real papers. The lawyer said there's a patent, a license." "Mr. Feldspar has them, dear. He always has. He called me, a little while ago, asked some funny questions. I told him you and Trevor were helping me." A strangled sound came from the other end of the phone. She was finally putting it together. My passivity, my obedience, the legal inquiry, the nuclear response from Golden Hearth. The old bat had not just tripped the wire, she'd somehow called in an airstrike on her own coordinates. "Call them off, Nana. Tell them it's a mistake. Tell them we didn't know. You have to fix this." "I'm just an old woman in a home, Chloe," I said, a sliver of ice finally entering my tone. "I don't fix things anymore. You and Trevor were going to fix everything for me, remember?" The silence that followed was profound. It was the sound of a worldview shattering. You did this on purpose," she whispered, with horror dawning. "I went where I was told to go," I said evenly. "The law is just following its recipe. It's very precise, you know, unlike family." I hung up.
The fallout was swift and merciless. Golden Hearth, protecting its billion-dollar brand, was pitiless. The lawsuit against Trevor and Chloe was plastered in the business section. Family feud sours Golden Hearth trade secret. Their accounts were frozen. The house, now a crime scene in a civil sense, was unsellable, entangled in the litigation. The sleek gray paint and jute rug were backdrop to a nightmare. Martin Feldspar called me, his voice full of grim awe. "Eleanor, they've settled. Golden Hearth dropped the suit against Chloe and Trevor in exchange for a full confidentiality agreement, a permanent injunction against Trevor working in the food industry, and their immediate vacating of your property. They also paid a significant sum to Golden Hearth. Your license is rock solid, and they've added another 5 years of guaranteed minimum royalties as a good faith gesture to you. They're terrified of you." "I'm just a little old lady, Martin." He laughed, a short, sharp bark. "You're the godmother they never knew they had. What do you want to do about the house?" I looked out at the Sunset Haven courtyard. The petunias were blooming. "Sell it," I said. "Every last stick. Give the proceeds, after your fees, to the local culinary arts school, in Arthur's name. And you? I'll stay here for now. It's quiet, but perhaps I'll look for a cottage with a good kitchen." A month later, I was packing my recipe box again. Chloe came to see me. She looked 10 years older, her eyes hollow. Trevor was gone, the marriage a casualty of his greed and her blindness. She stood in the doorway of my beige apartment, not daring to enter. "I'm sorry, Nana," she said, the words hollow. "For which part?" I asked, not unkindly. "For trying to put me away, or for getting caught?" She flinched. We thought we were helping. We thought you were fading." "I was grieving," I corrected. "There's a difference.
You saw weakness and saw an opportunity. Trevor saw an asset. You forgot to see me. Tears filled her eyes, real ones this time. The house, everything's gone. Not everything, I said. I walked to her and placed a hand on her cheek. It was a grandmother's gesture, but my touch was firm. You have your life, Chloe. It's broken, but it's yours. That's more than you were going to leave me with. I picked up my recipe box. This isn't just a box of ingredients. It's a ledger of love, of work, of secrets, of consequences. You tried to inherit the treasure without reading the ledger. That's always a mistake. I left Sunset Haven that afternoon. I didn't go to a cottage immediately. First, I went to the Culinary Arts School. They were having a dedication ceremony for the new Arthur Worth kitchen wing. I stood at the back, unseen. I saw young faces, eager, their hands ready to create, to build, to understand the alchemy of flour and sugar and heat. Later, in a temporary lease, a small apartment with a decent oven, I opened the recipe box. I took out the patent, the license, the bank statements, and put them in a fireproof safe. In the now empty secret compartment, I placed a single new index card. In my steady, spidery cursive, I wrote a title, "For Chloe When She's Ready." Beneath it, I didn't write a recipe. I wrote an ingredient list. 1 cup of humility, 2 tablespoons of hard truth, a pinch of mercy, 1 lifetime of patience. Mix in the bowl of your own life. Bake in the fire of consequence. Yield 1 authentic self. I closed the box. The wood was warm. Outside, the sun was setting, casting a golden, lemony light across the clean countertop. I took out flour, butter, and eggs, and a single perfect lemon. I began to bake. Not for anyone else, not for show, just for the quiet, profound joy of the process itself. The smell of sugar and citrus filled the air, my air, in my kitchen. It was the smell of home, and for the first time since Arthur left, it was also the smell of peace.